Hey everybody, I'm here with GiGi Fernandez at the 2018 Tennis Summit. I'm really excited to talk to GiGi about doubles strategy, and I'm sure a ton of you know about GiGi and her amazing accomplishments. First off, she's a 17-time doubles Grand Slam champion, which, if I'm not mistaken, includes 2 Australian Opens, 6 French Opens, 4 Wimbledons, and 5 US Opens. GiGi is also... Oh, there you go. Boom. Boom. It's incredible. So yeah, 2 golds. And GiGi also achieved career high rankings of 17 in the world in singles and #1 in the world in doubles, obviously with all those titles there. GiGi was also part of the 1990 Fed Cup championship team. She was inducted into the International Tennis Hall of Fame in 2010. And GiGi has recently developed the GiGi method to teach tennis players just like you how to play winning doubles. So GiGi, it's truly an honor to have you on Tennis Summit 2018, and it's really a pleasure to speak with you today.
Oh, thanks for having me, Ryan. Really excited to be here. Sorry I missed it last year, but I sure made an effort to be here this year, so I'm looking forward to it.
Yeah, thanks a lot, GiGi. I know you're obviously, super busy, and again, just happy to have you here. Such a great authority with so many accomplishments in both singles and doubles, but especially all those titles. So I'm really excited to learn double strategy from you, and I'm sure everybody else is too. So let's dive right into it.
Okay. So, Miraban, and to all the people listening, I'll just give you a brief explanation of what the GiGi method is, how it came about, why I think it's important that people learn it, and then I'm going to cover the first step. So the first step is positioning, and as we go through it, you'll see that these steps are kind of really well thought out, and there's a real purpose to every one of these steps, and following this way of playing tennis is really going to help you become a better doubles player. So the GiGi method is basically the name I gave to the doubles program that I created, or really it's a lifetime of knowledge that I have put into this program. I would say probably, it's probably skewed a little bit towards the last 5 years, or quite a bit towards the last 5 years, where I was teaching recreational players. Because what I learned on tour, what I knew about doubles really had to be modified to the level of the player. And I started coaching players, in intermediate 3.0, 3.5s, all the way to 5.0 when I was coaching or being director of tennis at a club in Connecticut. And this is pretty much where I came up with this. And it really came about out of my frustrations on how I saw people teaching doubles. And when I first got to the club where I was working, I just did not agree with how we were teaching. And I thought, well, maybe that's just because it's Connecticut and it's the Northeast, and, it's not your hotbed of tennis. It's not Florida, Texas, or California. So I started traveling around the country doing clinics and found the same issues just everywhere I went. So then I decided, okay, I need to go to conferences and I need to go listen to people talk about doubles. Well, and then what I found was that there was not a lot of information at the conferences about doubles. So in a 3-day conference, USPTA, PTR, to name a few, there would be maybe 2 or 3 sessions, or maybe not even, maybe 1 or 2 sessions on doubles. So that was, to me, a disconnect, because so many people play doubles. Recreational players, at a certain age, we all have to go to doubles because our body doesn't allow us to play singles anymore. So I created this because I really felt there was a need. And there's 6 steps: positioning, court coverage, serve, return, shot selection, and of course competition, because that's what it's all about. So before I start going into the steps, let's just all agree that tennis is a game of errors. The 2015 Australian Open Championship, men's and women's doubles, second round to finals, 60% of the points ended in an error. Okay, so if it's 60% for pros, imagine what it is for amateurs. It's got to be north of 70%. So the fact is that most of the points in doubles are going to end in an error. This is particularly true in doubles, because it's a lot harder to find winners on the doubles court than it is on the singles court. So through my years of teaching and playing, I discovered there's really 4 errors that players make. And I gave them an acronym. The acronym is PEST. They make positioning errors, and this is so common. They're standing in the wrong place. A lot of times I find that people don't even know where to stand. They think they're standing in the right place, but they're not standing in the right place. And remember that you don't know what you don't know, right? You don't know what you don't know. A lot of times you think you're standing in the wrong place, but you don't know that you're actually standing in the wrong place because nobody really has taught you where you should be standing. So that's positioning. Then execution is basically you just missed a shot, right? And everybody makes execution errors. Shot selection is when you attempted the wrong shot. So you try to hit the lob when you should have driven it. You try to go down the line when you should have gone across court, etc. And then tactics is the application of the strategy. So you're playing the wrong strategy against an opponent. So of all these errors, the only one that you cannot control is, and I wish everybody would answer this right away, but most people struggle with this. The only thing you cannot control is execution. You never know how you're going to execute. I don't know how I'm going to execute on a given day, nor do Venus and Serena or Roger for that matter. We have good days, we have bad days. But you can control your positioning, your shot selection, and your tactics. So if you can take away 3/4 of the errors that you could possibly make by following these sound principles of doubles, your game will improve. You know, when I teach people, they come to my clinics or my camps, in 2 days, people get wildly better. And that's without improving a shot. Like their forehands can get better, their backhands get better, their volleys can get better. Just simply by understanding doubles, they improve and they get better. So let's start with it. Let's talk about positioning. There's obviously the 4 position doubles, and I'm going to go through these really briefly, and then we'll get into the more important aspects of positioning. But just some tips on each one of these. Starting with the server, where to stand. I like the server to really stand in doubles as close to the alley as possible. Or if you break the half you're serving on, for sure from the half of that half towards the alley. Like a lot of times I find that players, they're accustomed to playing singles, and then when they transition to playing doubles, they don't move over enough. And you can see how, when this on the ad side, if you can see this where my cursor is, I like this person standing as far out as possible because it gives you the shortest distance to the net for your first volley. So if this person's serving, the distance to travel for them to get from here to here is longer than if they have to go from here to here. All right, so if you're standing out here to serve, you have a shortest distance to get to your first volley. Oopsie, sorry about that. Also, if you stand too close to the singles line, your partner's going to be at the net. Your partner's going to be in the way of your shot right here. So if you're standing too close to the singles court or singles tee, you're going to hit the back of your partner's head. So it kind of limits where you can serve. That's happening on its own. The way to fix this is to have this person stand closer to the alley, which people do all the time, and I don't like at all. We're going to talk about that in a bit. But so anyway, very important where to stand. Make sure you get a large percentage of first serves in. In doubles, a first serve is different than in singles because you're looking for 70-80% of first serves in. Not so in singles is not quite as important. I mean, it is important, but in doubles it's even more important because the importance of the serve in doubles, if you never lose your serve, you never lose your match. So the servers really have to have this mentality that they have to hold. They have to hold. And I think recreational players give up on their serve too easily. They don't fight enough to hold serve because, maybe they think they can break easier than pros can. But it's really, you have to have that mentality that you gotta hold your serve. So controlling the tempo of the game is super important for the server. And then, of course, communicating the serve choice to your partner. And I see that recreational players kind of don't always do this. You see the pros always going back and talking to each other about what they're going to do in the next point, which is really important for the pros because the velocity of the ball and how hard they hit it. But it's also important for recreational players because you want the net player knowing how to help you. And if they don't know where you're serving, it's very difficult for them to help. So the server's partner's main goal is to disrupt the opponent's return, right? They have to be a presence at the net. They have to try to create confusion within the returners. And you do that by moving around. And also when you're positioning, you can see on the right side, or the left side of your screen, which is this one here where my cursor is, I have the service partner standing squarely in the middle of the box. And a lot of times, again, people will slide over closer to the alley, and then visually, that just looks to the returner like they have such a big gap to hit the ball into. So on the left side, you're kind of squeezing the returner. On the right side, you're covering their alley, and it gives the returner a view that they can hit the return anywhere, and it's it's just visually looks easier to make the return. So, and then one of the main things is, of course, to help your partner hold. And I always felt responsible when my partner didn't hold. I felt like it was my responsibility, and if she lost her serve, it was my bad. It was funny. I was playing a USDA 5-0 match just last weekend, and we won 6-2, 6-2, but I lost my serve 3 times. Wow. So after the match, I said to my partner, "Hey, what's going on?" And she was like, you didn't get your first serve in, and this and that. It was like, it's really, I didn't know how to nicely tell her that if I'm not holding, she's not helping. But anyway, so I just always feel responsible at the net to help my partner hold, and that kind of has to be our mentality. So for the returner, where to stand, and you want to stand as close to this, well, here you kind of want to favor, if you have a preferred ground stroke, you can try to favor that side. So it's a little bit personal preference. If you're looking for your forehand, you want to take a couple steps to your left if you can, and if you're favoring the backhand, vice versa. So, but one thing that I always tell people when they're playing lefties, make sure that they take automatically one giant step or 2 steps to the left anytime you're playing a lefty, and that should be like without even having to think about it. So if you're standing on the outside, inside the single sidelines, you should be almost halfway in the alley to return because of that lefty wide serve. And the top 3 roles of the returner, of course, are to make the return. And I tell my players to get the return over the net, not necessarily make it, because a lot of recreational players have this they don't judge the balls that are going out so well. So they hit a lot of balls that are going out. So just try to get it over the net. Being steady, and trying to set up the partner, and then get to the net first. One of the things I talk about, we'll talk about, is the importance of getting to the net, and the return is the guaranteed shortest ball you're going to get, because the ball has to land inside the service line. So best opportunity that sometimes you'll have in a game to get to the net is the return. So go ahead and take that opportunity. And then the returner's partner, I think, has the hardest position in the court. They're, a lot of times they're called the dead duck. There's really nothing, people tend to feel sort of like a fish out of water in this position. If your partner does not hit a good return, you're in trouble. One thing that's important here is that they call the serve. We want the returner's partner always calling the serve for 2 reasons. The first one is that the returner should usually solely focusing on returning and not trying to worry about calling the serve. But also, if the returner's calling the serve, they're going to miss a lot of calls. They're going to call the ball incorrectly from the baseline. So if the ball lands in the service line, the returner's partner has a better angle at calling that. So the top 3 roles for this person are to call the serve, keep their eyes on the service partner, like don't turn around and watch. A lot of people will turn around and watch to see what kind of the shot the partner's returning. But if you turn around, by the time you turn back, if your opponent has poached, you have no chance to react. And then after the return has passed the service partner, if they don't poach, then they have to move back in into the little neutral circle, which we're going to talk about in a minute. So let's talk about the difference between the singles court and the doubles court. And, we've only really added 9 feet of space. The alleys are 4.5 feet wide. So that's 9 feet. And it's really not that much space. I mean, if you stand and take 1 step and stretch your arm, that's more than 7 feet. So really, with 2 people at the net, on really understanding what ball they should be covering, they shouldn't get past. And they for sure should not get past through the middle. And that's what we're going to correct today with proper positioning at the net. So let's talk about the front court. So when we're standing at the net, where should we be standing? So I created this little grid that's really helped players. So you're going to take the service box and break it in half, right here, the orange line, and then you're going to break it in half again. Where the lines intersect, I call it neutral. Now notice that when I broke the box in half, I didn't include the alley. So I didn't say this is my half. That would put that X square over here, which would put this other X over here, and there's a big gap in the middle. So I pretend when we're playing doubles, the alley does not exist. Okay, I don't mind the alley. I don't worry about it. I don't care if people hit it in there. And in fact, if you think people can hit shots in the alley, what I do when I'm talking about this and people look at me like I have three eyes, I say, okay, why don't you go on the other side of the net, and I'm going to feed you 10 balls, and I feed them 10 backhands here, and I see how many backhands can you get into this alley with me standing right here. And usually it's level dependent. Like the 5-0s might get 2, the 4-5s might get 1, the 4-0s and the 3-5s, they're lucky to get 1. But that's when I feed from here. So I feed from here to here, and that's a straight shot. But now when I feed from here, they have to change the direction of the ball. When you change the direction of the ball in tennis, you add a level of complexity. So they make 0. So then I tell people, okay, if you can't make the shot, why are you covering it? And most people agree they can't make that shot. So why are you covering it, and when are you going to cover it? And that's another subject. But for now, we're just going to pretend that alley doesn't exist. And if you're ever lost and don't know where to go to neutral. Now, if you take your racket and if you stand in the middle and you extend your arm and you draw a circle around yourself, you create what I call the neutral circle. And now you should always be inside the neutral circle when you're at the net. The only reason to go outside of the circle is to go get a ball. So if you're poaching, you come out of the circle this way. If somebody sent the ball to the alley, then you move over there. If you're returning, what we just talked about, you're going to be standing here. But as soon as the return passes the service partner, then you got to get into your circle. If you're up here, which I see a lot, people up, close to the net, you get lobbed. So make sure that when you're at the net, you're inside that circle. Now, when we created, when we broke the box in half and broke it in half again, we created these 4 quadrants. Quadrants 1, 2, 3, 4. Different things happen in each one of these quadrants. From the first quadrant, we want to cover the alley. Now, I've drawn here. I don't know if you can tell, but this gray line that goes here and here. This is the 60-foot court on the 10 and under court, which is a lot of times drawn into some courts. If you're lucky enough to have that guide when you're playing, that's great, because that's the line that I tell people not to cross, and that's really where the circle ends. So if you have 1 foot in this little section here between the 60-foot court and the sideline, if you have 1 foot there, I can live with it. But as soon as you put 2 feet in here, if you're on my court, I'm yelling at you, and I'm yelling hard, because when you're standing here, you're leaving all this court for your opponent, for your partner to cover. And I don't know about you, Marban, but I don't want a partner that leaves you 90% of the court to cover, and they're covering the 1%, shot that someone might make. So from this quadrant 1, we're going to cover the alley when we think the ball's going in the alley. But again, we're staying inside a circle, or maybe inching a little bit with 1 foot in that section. From quadrant 2, we poach, or we initiate our poach. Let's talk about poaching for a minute. A lot of people have trouble poaching because they move side to side. They try to poach this way, and they come back and they go back and forth. You should be moving in a triangle. So if you're starting at this point of the triangle, which is the neutral point, then you try to poach towards the center strap. This is your center strap right here. Poach to center strap. If you don't get that, you got to back up to the defensive position, and then you move back to your point of the triangle, and then you keep this triangular movement going on. Okay, this is happening with both players at the same time. So that's your poach. A lot of times people will poach from the 3rd quadrant, and I don't like it because it's hard to put the ball away. The closer you are to the net, obviously, the easier it is to put it away. If you poach from the 3rd quadrant and you don't put it away, you've left your half of the court open. So I tell people it's, for sure not with a backhand volley, but people try to do poach from back there with the forehand volley. From the 3rd quadrant, what you want to do is defend. This is your defense zone. And then you can defend along this corridor as far back as you want. If you're feeling threatened, someone's hitting an overhead or they've poached, come back to the baseline, or come back to no man's land on quadrant 3. What most people want to do is they want to run to quadrant 4. They want to run to this quadrant, and they want to run off the court because they're scared. Now, so this quadrant I call no man's land. There's no reason to be standing here in doubles. Again, if you're feeling threatened, which is totally valid. I mean, I played mixed doubles against Goran Ivanisevic, and Andy Roddick. They hit the what out of the ball. So I was scared. So quadrant 3 all the way back, you take away the middle, you give them the alley, which is a lower percentage shot to hit, and hopefully they miss it. So that's your quadrants. Now, one of the, I think, key differentiators between the way I teach and the way I've seen people teach is this concept of staggering. what I find is two players positioned even with each other. So here you can see one player is up, one player is back. And these are both examples of one's correct staggering, one's incorrect staggering. I'm going to tell you which one's correct in a minute. But the problem that I see with two players standing next to each other is that who gets the middle ball? Do you know, Mervan, who gets the middle ball when two players are standing next to each other?
Whoever has the forehand.
Yeah, that's the answer that I get the most. What if you can't get it, right? What if it's too far away for the forehand player? So really what happens when you're even with your partner is that when the ball is struck by number one up here, when your baseliner hits the ball, these two players have to make a split-second decision and decide whether the ball is, close enough to me or not close enough to me for me to get it. So this happens so fast that there's really not much time for the players to decide. And what happens a lot, and I see this all the time, is either both players go to the ball and they crash into each other, or no one goes to the ball. And then the ball goes to the middle, which is the cardinal sin of doubles. So this is caused by two players that are even with each other and they're moving side to side. They've been taught to follow the ball. This concept of following the ball is like, if this person's here, if the one is striking the ball, number three would be positioned kind of even with them. So they would be standing over here. And this is what most people do. If one goes out here to hit an outside the alley shot, then three would come this way and four would come even more this way. And I completely disagree with this way of covering the court because, as we just said, number one, it leaves the middle open, or it creates middle confusion. The other problem that we have is that if you're following the ball, when number one's striking the ball, number three is moving over, number four has to come over to the middle and close, standing. This is the A depiction is reverse staggering. So the correct one is B. With B, we have the person in front, the volleyer in front of the baseliner closer to the net. With A, we have the reverse staggering, which is the opposite. In this case, in the case of B, who gets the middle ball now?
Three does.
Correct, because three is closer to the ball. And as long as there has been doubles, whoever's closest to the ball gets the first right at it, and whoever's behind them has to kind of back them up. So in this case, four gets themselves and any lob that goes over the three that three can't get. Okay, so the higher the level, the less staggering you'll see. So if you watch the pros, they don't stagger as much, but they do stagger. And here I'm going to show you a video of Hingis and Chan's staggering. Let's see. So this video really demonstrates proper staggering. This is from the U.S. Open last year. Martina's going to come to the net here in a minute. So now watch Chan's in front. Okay, wait. So at this point, so this is Chan covering the alley. Okay, look at where she's standing. She's standing right squarely in the box. The ball is on the strings of her opponent. She's she's covering the alley correctly, but not from, and she still gets the ball. Tough get, but she got it. It was a great shot. She gets back to the court, and here we see proper staggering again. Chan on the right is in front of Hingis. Hingis comes into cover one more time. Proper staggering. Hingis comes in again. And now we're going to reverse the staggering because the ball switched courts. So now Hingis in front, Chan's behind, and then the lob goes over, and that was Chan's lob. But she made look at the little tiny mistake that she made. This is where the lob went in. She was just leaning forward too much. Let's see it one more time. She goes forward, and that's it. She got caught. So she tried to close on that ball just ever so slightly and wasn't able to get the lob. But you saw there how high-level players demonstrating staggering. The other thing that I wanted to demonstrate, and this actually goes back a little bit, but I forgot, but I'm still going to show it because, when I sort of analyzed my game and, when I started coaching recreational players, I had to go back and think about, okay, what am I teaching and what was I doing? And am I crazy? Was I really not going into the alleys to cover the balls? And this video was shown by Wimbledon last year, and it shows, it's a pretty cool point. So let's play it for everybody. Some of you might have already seen it, but I'll show you two instances. This is a Wimbledon final. And here's the first instance of Jana's hitting a forehand, and she had one of the fiercest forehands in my era. She's just outside the alley when she hits that ball, and look at where I'm standing covering the alley. This is me covering the alley. Okay, Natasha comes to help. And this is the second instance of, look at Jana out here is outside the court, and this is where I'm covering the alley from. I'm still not crossing that 60-foot line. And I still go back to get that. Now, there's nothing else to show other than this is a really fun point. So for those of you who haven't seen it, I thought I'd let you watch it. Crazy, actually.
It is crazy. Oh, yeah. Oh, my God.
So I mean, it's like, okay, I mean, I know that this works. It works at the highest levels. It works at the 3-5-4 level. So let me go back to, where are we here? Let me go back to this. So what are the problems with reverse staggering? I mean, you saw it with Chan, where there's a lot going on in this slide here, but basically when you reverse stagger, which is position number A here, we leave all this space open for a cross-court lob. Now, a cross-court lob has 4 more feet to hit into than the down-the-line lob. All right, so it's obviously an easier lob to hit. It also can be intercepted, but it's not as easy. What we show here is that if a lob is hit cross-court and the net player in front has to try to chase that lob, that's a really difficult get. You saw where we wanted Chan to intercept Hingis' lob, and she reverse staggered, so it was hard for her. But if anytime somebody hits a lob cross court and the cross court person can't get it, it's almost impossible for the down the line person to get it. So and we talked about middle confusion. When you're even with each other or you're reverse staggered, we create this middle confusion where we don't know who's going to get the middle ball. Okay, so we're now, still talking about positioning, but when I move into formations, and there's 3 formations that you ever face when you're playing, when you're in the doubles court: 2 up, 2 back, or 1 up, 1 back. And when I ask people what they think the best formation in doubles, most people correctly answer that 2 up is the best position in doubles. Now, when I ask, what do you want on the other side to make it the true best position in doubles, I get a 50-50 between 2 back and 1 up, 1 back, and it usually sway towards 2 back. But really, the best position in doubles is 2 up against 1 up, 1 back on the other side. And I call that the holy grail. And the reason, and this is statistically, this isn't just me making this up. Like, if you go look at doubles points at every level, the large majority of the points and the 2 up against 1 up, 1 back formation are going to be won by the people that are 2 at the net. So when I was telling you earlier a statistic about the Australian Open 2015, where 60% of the points ended in an error, 40% of the points that ended in a winner, of those 40%, only 3% were won by the person at the baseline. The other 37% of the points of the winners were won by the person at the net. So the net is where doubles happens. And if you see the pros playing 1 up, 1 back, don't be fooled into thinking that works, because like I just said, the statistics show that even though they're 1 up, 1 back, the baseliner has become the setter for the net person, kind of like beach or volleyball, where one person, the back person setting the front person, and the points are still won by the person at the net. So getting to what I call the holy grail is really the key to successful doubles. And because at the same time that the people in the holy grail are in the best formation in doubles, their opponents are in the worst formation in doubles, which is what I call the highway to hell. So when you're 1 up, 1 back, and your opponents are at the net, that baseliner has incredible pressure. Like, what do they do? Where do they hit the ball? There's nowhere obvious to hit it. They usually tend up throwing up a lob. They don't have the ability to keep hitting the ball low at the feet, which is what the pros do. When we're in that formation, we always hit the ball low, low, low. So your partner doesn't get clobbered. But at any point in that situation, if you hit the ball up, your partner's going to get killed. So I tell players to, avoid that formation at all costs, and to apply sound principles for coming into the net. And so let me talk about I have 2 rules for coming into the net, because I'm telling you that you have to get to the net, but you can't just come in to the net on anything. You have to be smart. And I have 2 rules for coming in. The first one is that you want to make sure you get to at least the service line for your first volley. Okay, so if you're not getting to the service line for your first volley, you're going to have a hard time winning points. Transition volleys and half volleys and first volleys from behind the service line are not easy shots to execute. So there's 2 ways to achieve that. You either hit your approach shot from inside the baseline, preferably, 2 or 3 feet inside the baseline, so you don't have that far to go to the service line. Or you hit a high slow ball. I call it a sneak attack. Not the saber, but just like a sneak attack, which is a kind of like a high lobby ball. It's not a full lob, but it's high enough that the net person can't poach. And then because it's slow and high, it's usually, because it's slow, it gives you enough time to get to the net, but because it's high, usually the next ball coming back will also be high. So now you got 2 up with, a high ball coming to you. So that's the first rule. And then the second rule is you want to make sure you keep your opponent in the singles court. And no one really talks about the opponents being in the singles court, but this is super important. People get so stuck into hitting angles when they're playing doubles. Angles are trouble. Like, I don't like angles. We always let our opponents hit the angles first. Whoever opens up the angles first loses. They're in trouble. I mean, you might win some points if you have great angle shots, but over the course of a match, these are risky, low percentage, opening up the court shots. And what you want to do is really play doubles from the singles court as much as possible, keeping your opponent in the singles court. If they open the angle, well, good, then take advantage of it. But don't come, the wider you come into on your approach shot, remember your partner has to shift a little bit. So it's making the space that you have to hit your first volley in a lot wider. And then the second problem is that the wider you hit the ball, the wider it comes back. So if you're hitting a wide approach shot, your first volley is going to be tough. So if you can come closer to the ideal spot, is really the deep into the singles sideline. That's where you want to do when you come in. So that's position in the front court. And then position in the back court is fairly simple. Like, the closer you are to the baseline, the better you'll be. You don't want to back up to the red area back here, because this just gives, tennis is a game of time and real estate. And being back here gives your opponent too much time to get into position. If you're taking the ball early, we want to take the ball early in doubles because it takes time away from the opponent and it puts you in a better position. So that's that. I wanted to demonstrate staggering in case there's still some confusion, or just to get a good visual on it if we have time.
Sure.
So the concept of staggering, where one person's slightly in front of the other at all times. So I just want to demonstrate it. I have these yellow and blue marks. So the premise here is that if the ball is in your half, so if Fabi's hitting the ball in that half, you would be in front of me, okay, right, anytime. And then if you redirect and hit the ball to Sandra, then we have to re-stagger, and that would come up, and you would back up a little bit. Okay. Right, so this is proper staggering. Again, I hit the ball back. That would correct staggering. So let's just demonstrate that. You want to feed? Sure. And Patty, you want to come in? We're just going to work on our basic staggering. All right, so just alternate feeds. Move in. Good. Nice. Good try. Yes, you can see how there was a middle ball there that, because Patty, who by the way is my sister, because she's moving forward into the middle, which is what we want people in this position to do, forward into the middle, she can intercept that. Now, her opponents at the baseline, normally they would be at the net in the Holy Grail. Yeah, this is a good angle where you can see us. You can see like it's a little bit of, there it is. It's a little staggered. It will still to her. So you notice how I'm like, when Sandra's hitting the ball, I'm always trying to make the move to the net. Move forward. Yeah, forward and to the center. Okay. To me. Good pace right there. See? I see. Good. Uh-oh. Nice shot. All right, so we're going to do a few more demonstrations of proper staggering. And also what happens when you're properly staggered is that you've taken away the cross-court lob. Yep. Because I'm back, and she's hitting cross-court. Okay. Yeah, so we kind of talked about that, but I just wanted people to see it. I wanted people to see how little it is. It's sometimes people get, the difference between her and I was maybe a foot and a half, and this is a little bit level dependent. And whether you're, there's 4-5-5-0 is hitting the ball fairly hard. If you're playing, 3-0-3-5 tennis, your starting point might be further back because you're more likely to receive lobs. So you could be more in the back of the circle than we were sort of in the front of the circle. So yeah, that's what I got for positioning. The other 4 steps are, court coverage. We talk about what to cover at the net. We have serve and return strategies to help you hold your serve. And there's so many things you can change with your serve to help you hold serve, return strategies. And then we have, of course, shot selection, which shot selection comes into play after you've hit a serve and a return. Now shot selection comes into play. And that's based on, again, the 3 formations, 2 up, 2 back, or 1 up, 1 back. So hopefully you enjoyed it and learned a little bit about positioning. And remember, you don't know what you don't know.
Awesome, Gigi. I mean, I really appreciate that fantastic presentation. I know I definitely learned a lot about doubles. I mean, I play a lot with my friends and USTA leagues. And like you mentioned, as we age, especially, you're going to be playing a lot more doubles. The USTA leagues, for example, is probably like 80% doubles.
Yeah.
And so it's really going to help you a lot to, learn from a great person like Gigi and with all her experience. Just a couple of questions for you, Gigi, and this one is a very selfish one. Let's say you have a partner who's a great volleyer, doubles player, and then you have someone else, hint, hint, me, who is he's known for a big forehand, because he's a singles player. I mean, would you ever still like deviate from the 2 up? Would you ever do 1 up? Say again.
What's your rating?
5-0.
Okay, yes. So absolutely 5-0s and above, because you have the ground strokes to be able to handle the pressure of this ball coming to you. So I don't have a problem with you staying in the baseline as a 5-0 if you can handle the pressure and the stress of 2 players at the net. Because what happens at the higher levels is that the baseliner is actually trying to set up the volleyer, their partner, to poach. So what I was doing when I was in that position is I was constantly hitting the ball at my opponent's feet so that Natasha would poach. So yes, this is 5-0 and above, definitely okay for you to stay back there if you have the mentality that you're trying to set up your partner. However, if it's not working, if you have somebody's huge serve volley coming in and you're not winning points on your side, then you have to make an adjustment. So yeah. If you don't like your volleys, we got to work on that.
Yeah, I should probably fly down and have a couple sessions with you. That'd be awesome. Oh, great stuff. And also, I was curious, do you ever, or when you play, like have the returner's partner do signals to you, like say if the returner's partner wants to poach or anything like that?
Yeah, so I cover that in the return section, but so I have a play that's called the plan poach, or a plan switch rather. And a plan switch is not a poach, because in a poach, when you're poaching, you have to time the ball perfectly to be able to hit it, right? And if you don't get it, usually you're going to lose the point, right? So you have to leave soon enough so you can get it. But if you leave too early, the opponent's going to go behind you. So your timing has to be really precise. On a planned switch, you and your partner simply agree to switch. And you do this when, like you said, like the returner, say I'm stuck in a cross-court forehand rally and my partner is not successful poaching, we'll say, okay, on the 3rd ball, you're going to go. So on the 3rd ball that the opponent hits, then we're simply switching. So it happens quicker than the poach, because you're just switching. This would also be good if you have someone who has like a better forehand and they're on the outside. You would have the returner and the partner switch so they can go to the forehand. So yeah, I don't mind. I like signals. I like signals for some reasons, and I don't like signals for others. I like signals because it tells your opponent something's happening. So you make them think, oh, they're doing signals. What are they going to do this time, right? But I don't like them sometimes because they can be confusing, especially for the lower level players. Sometimes they get confused. Who is going, like when they point, it's like, who's going that way, me or you? I get that a lot. Or, and also it eliminates the opportunity for a connection, to make a connection with your partner, which is really important in doubles. Like you always want to feel connected to your partner. And if you can go talk and see how they're feeling, or, talk about what's going on as opposed to just giving a signal.
Yeah, it's great stuff, Gigi. When you mentioned about how signals can kind of confuse your opponents, I have a buddy who he'll actually throw out like 6 different signals, and then he'll have like, or no, what am I saying? Oh yeah, so he'll have his net partner like keep signaling, and he'll say no, no, no like 5 times,
Oh,
and it'll like confuse the other team.
yeah.
So that's kind of brutal there.
Yeah, and also one point about signals is I never like the server's partner telling the server where to serve, because the server is the one that feels the serve, and they're responsible for holding. They're responsible to control the tempo. They're responsible for holding serve. So I know how I feel. I know which serve every day. It's a little different. You know, you feel good on a certain day on a certain serve. So you want to, your partner doesn't know that. And then the other thing is, there was a certain returns that I didn't like hitting. Like I didn't like Yana's slice backhand, even though it was softer than her forehand. I prefer her forehand with power. It would come right to my strings. So my partner didn't necessarily know that, or you could be hurt and you don't want to dig for that one. You'd rather get the hard one. So again, your partner is not in tune with you as a server. So I don't like people. I don't like, unless there's a definite leader or better player on the court that's sort of dictating the play of the whole match, then I think it's best if the server has more input on their serve.
Yeah, Gigi, that's a great point. And sometimes when I play with somebody and we do signals and I give them a signal and they'll always say yes, then I actually get a little concerned, because I wonder, like, shouldn't they ever like give input? Maybe they don't want to serve it there, but
it means they're not thinking too, because the person giving the signals is really thinking it through. It's like, this worked the last time, that didn't work. When we went here, this happened. So let's not go there again. If you're just the server and you're just following the lead of your partner, then you're not in tune with what's happening with the match. So I really encourage servers to pull their own serves.
Awesome, Gigi. Appreciate that. One other question for you. How do you protect the server from getting lobbed, or how do you protect against that? Because I've been in matches before where the returners will just constantly lob because they know that my partner is serving and volleying, and he eventually, gets wiped out.
The server gets lobbed, or the server's partner gets lobbed?
The server will get lobbed. So my friend will serve, and then the returner will just lob him because he knows
Really?
Yeah, and he'll have to run back, and he gets tired from that. So I was just wondering how to protect against that.
Well, I mean, what I would say to that is, don't serve and volley every time.
Yeah.
So mix in, like, one key component of holding is to mix it up. So you don't want to be predictable. So if you over serve and volley, then your opponent knows you're going to serve and volley, and then they just throw up the lob. But if you're serving and staying back once in a while, with like one out of once a game, or once to each side, then you keep him guessing. So there's a lot of things you can vary with your serve, and that's one of them. That's a formation. Like, you have to mix up your formations when you're serving and not just be so predictable.
Awesome, Gigi. Before I ask you about your course, one last question. Talking about the serve return, which is obviously really important. When you're teaching your students that shot, is there a particular type of return or an optimal return that you want them to hit most of the time?
Yeah, so there's two places that you want to hit the return. Let me go back to sharing the screen so you can see an image here. So we're training the return. So if your opponent is serving and volleying, you want to aim the return right here at this was the fourth quadrant, if you recall. So your opponent is serving and volleying, you want to return at this quadrant. If your opponent is serving and staying back, then you want to hit it inside the single sideline, or as close to that single sideline, and as deep as possible. So I tell players you have two options when you return. You can drive the ball, or you can lob the ball, right? So if you're driving the ball, you have two options. You can hit it back to where it came from, or you can change the direction of the ball and hit it at the net player. I don't think people hit it at the net player enough. Second serves at the net player are very effective. Most people just hit the ball cross court all day. They don't think of lobbing. They don't think of hitting it down the line. And I'm not saying hit it down the alley. I'm saying hitting at the net player. And when you hit the ball at the net player, hit to their inside volley. So inside volleys are here. Outside volleys are here. If you hit the outside volley, which is trying to throw the needle into this alley, and they get it, you've left this middle open, right? If you hit it to the inside volley, it's probably going to come back to you. It might come through here, but it's still an easier get than if you hit it out here and you're leaving the middle open.
Excellent, Gigi. Appreciate that. And so obviously you've been doing some incredible work, some of which we've seen with, the online instruction realm. And so I wanted to ask you about, what types of courses and programs you've been creating lately.
Yeah, so I have a portal called doubles.tv, and doubles.tv holds all my doubles knowledge. There's two things in there. There's the GiGi method, and the GiGi method is that we just went through the first step, which is positioning. There's 4 more steps, and then there's the competition step. And I showed you a video of one of the steps, but basically each step has 10 to 15 videos. That sells for $47. And then once you complete the GiGi method, then you're allowed to enter the classroom. And the GiGi method classroom is a weekly delivery of information related to the GiGi method. So we go through a 50-week curriculum where each week we talk about a different double subject. It's fairly intense. It's a lot of, intense meaning that I just put so much time and effort and energy into this, and there's so much information here. For example, I'm going to share screen again and show you. So here you can see this is the first semester, and then these are the problems that we're solving, how to cover the nets you're never passed. And then you get all this bonus material. Like every week you get different bonus material. The second week we talk about coaching problems, how to never let it go by that you put a hit, how to get to the best position in doubles, how to place from the worst position in doubles, how to beat the dreaded lobbers, offensive lob versus defensive lobs when to eat. So you can see, with 22-week curriculum here, so these are the different courses that we have in Spanish. But the classroom is what I want to show people. So this is like step 1. This is not the GiGi method, but this is what we cover on the first lesson. We cover all these things. You get the positioning step in writing, you get a positioning quiz, you get the bonus, video bonus, you get some articles to read. Lesson 2 is movement patterns at the net. We have a 10 steps to a better game series that includes the volley, overhead, serve, return, etc. Then more articles. There's a lot of mental articles in here, a lot of mental work. Week 3, we have another positioning quiz, how to get to the Holy Grail. So you see, it's like really every week every 7 days, you're getting sort of all this information that, can take 5 minutes to do, or it could take however long you want it to take. You could spend hours trying to get better at doubles, or you could just spend, a couple hours a week. Each one has a drill. For example, this is the drill this week. It's called Don't Fall Off the Cliff. And this one helps you stay closer to the baseline. So here's the explanation of the drill. And then here's the actual drill itself. So you warm up, and then you do drill 1, drill 2, etc. So that's what you get with doubles.tv. And I just launched it 4 months ago, so we're trying to get more people to know about it. So I'm really thrilled to be able to reach this community, because the goal of a teacher is to help their students, and my goal 2 years ago became to share my knowledge of doubles, and putting it all out there, sharing and traveling. I travel to clubs and do clinics. I bring people over to the national campus in Orlando. So I'm one of those players who, when I retired, I didn't want anything to do with tennis. I kind of had it. I was burnt out, and I spent a good 10 years away from the game. And you see, a lot of players leave the game and never come back. Sabatini is an example of one. There's so many that they just sort of disappeared from the face of the earth. And it's really a shame, because we have so much that we can offer and so much knowledge, and we can be so helpful to people. And it's something that's so easy for me, that I know so inherently, that I just felt it was selfish to not share. So, I turned it into a business, and, I have to pay my bills. I have 8-year-olds. I wish I could give it away, but it's the monthly subscription is $12.99 a month, so it's not going to break the bank. And I always have free trials, so you can kind of check it out. And so, hopefully we get some people using it. And thanks for having me. It's been a lot of fun sharing this afternoon with you.
Anytime, GiGi. I just want to encourage everybody out there to check out the link below to GiGi's program. GiGi just has such an amazing career you've had and continue to have, and your knowledge is displayed by the presentation and in all the different ones you do around the globe. just shows how great of a knowledge you have. So I really encourage everybody to just at least check out what GiGi is doing. Very affordable stuff. And I know I really enjoyed this session today with you, GiGi. So I really do appreciate you coming on Tennis Summit 2018, and looking forward to chatting with you again soon.
Thank you, Mirban. Thanks for having me.
Thanks, GiGi.
Take care.